Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Temecula City Council meeting of January 24th, 2023. I have now called this meeting to order. We'll start by having an invocation by Jim Willis of the Center for Spiritual Living, Temecula Valley. And then I'm going to invite Vice Chair Eric Faulkner down to lead us in the pledge.
So let us all come together, close our eyes, and take a collective deep breath. For I know that there is one power, one presence, one creator, one divine intelligence, one all and everything which I choose to call God. For it is that power which has created all that there is. It's that same power which knows how to maintain and sustain all and everything. There is that one presence which is surely the life and the light and the love of God flowing in, around, and through each and every one of us. There is one creator and one creation. There is that one divine intelligence which always, always, always knows what to do, when to do, and how to do it. And I know that the one is endowed with all the divine qualities of God, of justice and freedom and life and light and love and peace and joy and happiness, balance and beauty, divine wisdom, wholeness, and abundance in all and everything. And I know that I, being spiritually created in the image and likeness of the one, that I too am endowed with all those same divine qualities. And as I know this to be true for myself, I know this to be true for each and every person within the sound of my voice. And I know and declare that tonight's meeting flows with grace and ease, that all that needs to be said and discussed is discussed, and all that needs to be complete and shared with each other is shared. And I call it all good, for it is all God. God is goodness itself, and I simply allow it to be. And so it is. Amen.
Please repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Madam City Clerk, may we have the roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Alexander?
Here.
Councilmember Brown?
Here.
Councilmember Kalfas?
Here.
Councilmember Schwank?
I'm here.
I'm sorry, Mayor Schwank.
That's okay.
And Mayor Pro Tem Stewart.
Here.
All right, thank you very much. We'll go ahead and move right into our presentations. I'm going to go ahead and come on down to the podium. The first presentation of National Mentoring Month proclamation to Big Brothers and Big Sisters.
Good evening. All right, it works. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Crystal Joseph. I'm the Director of Resource Development and Events for Big Brothers, Big Sisters of the Inland Empire. January does mark National Mentoring Month, and this is a wonderful time for us to acknowledge those that have dedicated their time as mentors to young people, those who have amplified our young people's voice, and to remind our community that they too can join the mentoring movement. So just a little bit about Big Brothers, Big Sisters. What makes us special is not only our proven outcomes, but is that we are Jedi focused, which stands for justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. It's our framework and foundation for which we operate. We are also youth-centered, volunteer-driven, and we are one-to-one. Now, mentoring is all about that social and economic mobility, and that's what we have our foundation and just make sure that that is who we are and what we do. And we do it through 4 driving outcomes. That is social and capital connection, social, emotional, and mental health, which we all know has been very important these last few years specifically, as well as a focus on educational and career success, and of course, positive behavior and choices. So if we take a look at our numbers here, specifically in the Inland Empire, we are just 8 years young, right? We are a national organization, but our presence has only been here in the last 8 years. But in those short time frame, we've done a lot. Over 3,000 youth have been impacted by our programs, and we do this by 4 specific mentoring programs, 2 of which we have here in the Temecula Valley in Temecula. And we partner with over 21 school districts between our 2 counties. And these are just a couple of photos of our local volunteers. We have our annual cornhole tournament every September. Last year we had it at Lake Elsinore Storm Stadium. And of course, some great folks here in our pictures. We have Craig Davis, which I'm sure many of you guys know, as well as Sean and Rob Sorensen. Together we ignite potential. 87% of our people that have been in our program have reported improved mental health, including a reduction in depressive symptoms. 84% have reported improved academic performance. And one of my favorite statistics is that 98% of our youth in our program graduate from high school on time. That is a fantastic statistic. And even between those, not on this slide, 43% of those students are first-time high school graduates as well. And then 67% of those go on to attend college. So in short, National Mentoring Month this January is here to remind us of the power of mentorship. I'd be remiss if I didn't invite each of you here to get involved with us. You can go online at iebigs.org/volunteer to look at all of our different programs. But thank you so much today for the opportunity to share this information, and happy National Mentoring Month.
Yay. So thank you so much for coming. It's an honor for us to be able to recognize you and the impact you have on our community here at City Council. So thanks for coming. I will go ahead and read the proclamation. It says, whereas the future of Temecula, our state and nation, rest on the shoulders of our youth, and whereas educated, confident, and nurtured children will give rise to stronger cities, counties, states, and nation. And whereas mentoring matches a child with a caring, responsible adult to build confidence, stability, and provide guidance and direction. And whereas mentors are an important part of the Big Brothers, Big Sisters of the Inland Empire mentoring movement, where research has shown that children engaged in one-on-one case-managed mentoring programs of Big Brothers and Big Sisters are more likely to have an increase in school attendance, improve high school graduation rates, and prepare young people for college and career readiness, all while ensuring young people find alternatives to involvement with substance abuse, violent behaviors, and criminal justice system. Whereas January has been designated as National Mentoring Month, calling on adults across America to become involved with mentoring. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Zach Schwank, on behalf of the City Council of the City of Temecula, hereby proclaim this month of January 2023 to be Mentoring Month, and I urge all citizens in our community to join me in this special assistance. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. So much.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Our second presentation tonight is a presentation of the 2022 MISAC Excellence in Information Technology Award. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Schwank, council members and staff. It's a pleasure to be here this evening, and it's always fun to follow positive presentations. So my name is Mitch Cochran. I've been the Director of Information Technology for the cities of San Bernardino and Monrovia, and past president for the state organization MISAC. This evening, you get the pleasure of representing MISAC in the state board. The Municipal Information Systems Association of California is a statewide organization of IT professionals from over 400 cities and special districts. The association promotes peer-to-peer communication among municipal IS professionals, offers personal staff development and enrichment. MISAC serves as an advisory body to League of California Cities with representatives on the League Committee, Government Technology, other conferences. MESAC provides a number of functions at state level: statewide conference, the active listserv, information library, co-op technical training classes, no cost to our members, and the excellence in IT practices, which is what we're here for this evening. We established this program over 20 years ago to recognize exemplary IT achievements and performance. The City of Temecula, under Director of Michael Heslin, is being recognized this evening as an agency that excels in creative and efficient uses of resources in local government. The award signifies the agency has exceeded local government standards in the areas of strategic planning and budget, purchasing, operations, customer satisfaction, internet, project management, training, disaster preparation and recovery, policies, procedures, and GIS. But the process is just as important as the award. As part of the program, the applicant receives an evaluation of the program and where they can improve. A panel of 3 city IS directors give the award based on an extensive 100-question audit and review the information system operation. It's a great way and tool to look at how you're doing from the outside organization, from the outside perspective. The award program is updated every year to meet and incorporate new standards and best practices, so applicants are held to the highest standards. And it's especially tough for organizations given fewer resources to meet all the ever-changing requirements, regulations, and just ways of doing business. So there are 2 levels of the award: the Achievement and the Tougher Excellence Award. For those familiar with CAFR and now the ACFR awards from CSMO, this is very similar for the technology, but of course ours is a little tougher, and yes, I am biased. And on behalf of Municipal Information Systems Association of California, it's my distinct pleasure to present the City of Temecula with MESAC's Award for Excellence in Information Technology Practices.
It's with gratitude and honor that we accept this award tonight on behalf of the entire team. I want to thank Mitch for coming out to present, the MESAC for initiating this program, and the selection committee for all the hard work that they do. I want to thank council. You enable us to do what we do. Thank the support and partnership of the exec team and the entire city staff. And tonight I'm surrounded by the brightest and most intelligent group of people I've ever had the honor to work with. And they make all this possible, but we're grateful and we accept this award. Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah. Well, and as everyone's heading back to their seats, you truly have a wonderful team, and you do a lot of amazing work for our city. So we appreciate everything you do. So thank you. All right. And our third and final presentation this evening is a presentation of service pen to Mayor Zach Schwank for 10 years of service. and I will now be presenting it to myself.
Right. So it is my job to present you this 10 years of service, and for people who don't know, he was on the Community Service District Commission for 6 years?
Yeah, 6 years.
6 years, so
Yeah.
congratulations.
Yeah. So cool. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate that. Well, that's pretty cool, and I think it's really a testament to like being involved in the community. So you come to meetings, and then all of a sudden you're on a commission, and then you're elected to council. So be careful; you might end up here at some point. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's been a wonderful 10 years. It genuinely has. Thank you. Okay, board and commission reports. This evening we have the Race, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Commission with Chair Steed. Welcome.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members and city staff. The REDI Commission is made up of 7 residents who serve together as the advisory group to the City Council. We make recommendations on topics of diversity and inclusion in the city events, services, programs and policies, and enhanced community relations. Our last meeting was on January 12th, 2023, and the highlights of the meeting were as follows. Commissioner Stacia Deutsch was sworn in. Commissioner Deutsch was appointed by the City Council in November, and Commissioner Deutsch is a well-known children's author and a long-term resident of Temecula, so we're very excited to have her on board. I was named as chair, and Eric Faulkner, who just did our Pledge of Allegiance, was named as vice chair, so congratulations to him. The commission also received a status update on the REDI initiative, and we reviewed our 2022 activity and provided direction on our 2023 proposed activity. The commission will continue to receive presentations from external organizations, provide recommendations on assigned subjects related to city services and programs, and attend city events, including the Stewart murals, Poesca Mountain Day, State of the City, etc. And we also will be supporting the second annual Culture Fest event in May. And now there is an implementation of presentations of inclusionary proclamations into our meetings, and we will do this, of course, in a meaningful way. The Commission provided recommendations on how to make the proclamation presentations more inclusive of all students and the broader community. Lastly, our next Commission meeting is going to be on February 9th, 2023. Everyone is invited to attend. We encourage all of you to show up and be part of this. We're going to celebrate African American History Month, also known as Black History Month. We are seeing this as an educational opportunity for the people that we give proclamations to, and it will truly be an opportunity for the community to come together, to learn, to grow, and to celebrate. The community can also watch our meetings online at their convenience on the city's YouTube channel after the meeting. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much, Chair Steed, and I won't miss it. We'll be there.
Thank you.
Okay, public safety report. We have Chief Crater. Welcome.
Evening, Mayor, council members, staff, and Temecula residents. Yeah, I'm going to share with you December's numbers from the fire department and also from fire prevention, and then I'm going to follow that up with our year totals for both. Last month, or in December 2022, we ran 941 calls here in the city limits of Temecula. 716 of those were medical calls. 14 of those were fires. We had one commercial fire, 2 multifamily fires, and then 3 structure fires. And the others were vegetation and vehicle fires. We also ran 74 traffic collisions on the freeway and in the city streets of Temecula. Next slide. Last year, the city of Temecula, Battalion 15, was the second busiest battalion in the county. The county ran 192,871 calls in 2022. In Battalion 15, we ran 17,165 calls. 80 of those were structure fires, 14,367 were medical related, other fires, 58 vegetation fires. We continue to run a lot of calls, and we're just going to get busier. We're projected to go up about 5% next year. So our firefighters are doing an excellent job. I'm very proud to be their chief. They're highly trained professionals. They save a lot of money in this city, keeping fires small. We don't normally make the news for large fires in the city, and that's because of our 4-person staffing and the excellent training that they have. So I'm truly honored for what they did last year. They made me look really good as fire chief, and they'll continue to do that with their hard work and dedication to keep Temecula safe and care for our citizens. So I do appreciate that. With that said, we actually now have both of our battalion chief positions filled in the city. Brad Cassidy retired, and we have a replacement, and he's the best and the brightest, and he's going to do an excellent job for us. He serves on Incident Command Team 6 for the state of California and is very well-rounded, and I want to introduce Ryan Lubin to come down and say a few words. Chief?
Good evening, Mayor, council members, staff. Like the Chief said, my name is Ryan Lubin. Been with the department for 16 plus years. Started in Moreno Valley as a volunteer back in 2001, and I'm extremely excited and pleased to be here in the city of Temecula to serve the citizens and you, and keep up the good work for the department and lead these guys to continue to do a good job for you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Next slide. So like I said, the Fire Marshal's Office has also had a busy year. You can see their year-to-date, planned reviews, 6,003. Construction inspections, 4,411. Annual inspections, which are state mandated, and they need to get done, and we're on a time crunch for that. We were ahead of schedule by 1 month. Amazing. Nobody else in the county has been able to do that. So our staff is definitely leading the way, 5,337. And, we've been picking up since the pandemic, which we also went through with the city. And people are starting to visit us here at City Hall. So we're getting that interaction back, 27 in December and 375 for the year. I see that picking up, and people actually come to visit instead of doing it online a little bit more. It's good for our folks, and it's good for morale as well. So I definitely appreciate the Fire Marshal's Office, our prevention program here in the city, both county employees and city employees working together to make this happen this year. It kept the city moving. It kept our construction and our plan checks and all these businesses that want to come to the city moving and getting them operating. So thank you for that. And then I just added this so you could kind of see a 6-month stat and then what they actually do, and then the totals for the year with the plan checks. The state mandated, like I said, weed abatement inspections we do not do, but we also do special events. They did 41 special events in the city this year. That's a lot. And it goes from Rod Run to Balloon and Wine to all the stuff we do for Christmas to the firefighter musters. They're a big help. And one big team with the fire department. They really strive to work with us, and I see us all as city, county, state employees, working together to make Temecula great and keep it safe. So, next slide. Special thing happened in December. We had a little girl. She was diagnosed with leukemia, and one of our own firefighters lives down the street and reached out to our Sparkle Love program and contacted myself and Wendy Miller. And nothing too crazy on the ask here. A bookcase with books. Wow. Just kind of melts. You just kind of feel that in your heart. It's obviously we did more than that, but we got this little girl a bookcase, some books to read. A little cart to ride around on. You could see the picture of her sitting there in the chair. She got released from the hospital that morning, and Truck 73 and Engine 95 and Wendy Miller were able to go out there and meet her, kind of like a homecoming after she got home from the hospital, and gave him some toys and got the bookcase, but also in the same house as a special needs child. We were able to make this Christmas just amazing for them. Even though she has leukemia, she's strong, and she will beat it. We just know that in our heart. So thank you. That concludes my presentation. If you have anything or any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Chief. I really appreciate how you and your team are genuinely embedded into the fabric of our community. You make our community a better place. So thank you to the men and women keeping Temecula safe and protecting our homes and our lives. So thank you.
Thank you for the support.
Always. Okay, we'll move on to public comments on non-agenda items. Madam City Clerk, do we have any public comments on non-agenda items?
Mr. Mayor, we have several public comments on non-agendized items.
Okay, would you call the first speaker?
So at this time, the rules are listed on the agenda. Each speaker is, as a reminder, limited to 3 minutes, and we will take up to 30 minutes worth of public comment. If there is time in that 30 minutes, we have a few email comments as well. We'll go ahead and read those into the record. If not, they will be incorporated into the online record. The first speaker is Yvette Anthony, to be followed by Payam Dineshwar. Yvette Anthony.
Welcome.
Welcome. Hello. Thank you. That was really awesome what you did in December for that family. Okay, well, I'm just here, honestly, not to say too much. I did watch last council meeting online, and that is what inspired me to come here tonight to give kudos to all of you for your wonderful votes last meeting. So I just really did want to voice my support for your decision on the proclamations to relegate the pride and race and cultural proclamations to the REDI Commission, because we have a REDI Commission, and I think that's great, and I think that's exactly your lane, and it looks like you're going to be doing that next month. So I just really feel strongly that race and sexual orientation really has no business in city council business. So I'm glad it can be put over there, and we can not be talking about that kind of stuff here, because I don't think it serves any good purpose for us. So good job, council. But while I was reviewing the agenda, I did notice item 15, which kind of alerted me. Senate Bill 9, I'm not sure. This seems like ADU, stacking and packing, land use, zoning stuff. I did a little quick overview on the internet. I looked this up this morning. It just says SB 9 overrides existing density limits in single-family zones. So and then it also says SB 9 allows 4 homes where 1 was allowed before. I don't think this is good. We spent a lot of time and effort designing a general plan that has proper land use mixes of low density, high density, residential, commercial, whatever. And I think this is a really heavy-handed law passed down by the state to keep their boot on the necks of local jurisdictions who should control their own land use. So I really hope someone's paying attention to this. I saw in one of the attachments regarding this, it said the Western Riverside COG was going to be hired to consult on this. I don't know how much I trust that agency either, but I hope everyone's paying attention to this and is just going to preserve the quality of our community by keeping our land use and general land use and zoning already done maps intact so we can preserve the quality of our community, like I said. Did I have one other comment on that, though?
Yvette, your time's up. Thank you so much.
Oh, term limits, yes.
The next speaker is Payam Dineshwar, to be followed by Bob Cal.
Welcome.
Thank you. I have a few important topics to say, and I really thank you for listening. You know, a few days ago was China's New Year, and they celebrated by killing thousands of dogs. They torture 10 million dogs and 4 million cats a year. You can YouTube it. I actually don't do it. I mean, they dump all the garbage they have in the ocean, and they're responsible for 95% of pollution, along with India. Respect to Royce White. Also, they have concentration camps on all Nike, all Apple. Actually, most items made in China are made from people in concentration camps. You know, my point is, they're not up to any good. This is not a good model. Same with the World Economic Forum. Global digital ID, one world government, one world religion, which would actually be AI. Transhumanism is going really fast, and we're all being distracted by it. Joe Allen on Rumble explains it very well. I strongly recommend you guys look at that. I have a point here. I'm not just doing crazy talk. Look, Temecula agreed that we're going to do smart cities by 2030. World Economic Forum and the China model, the social credit system, is coming here. The 2030 agenda has a lot of radiation, directed electromagnetic energy weapons like voice-to-skull and 5G are a violation of privacy and health. And 15-minute cities, they want to take away our cars. Again, 2030 smart city is a prelude to this. Now, also really quickly, just randomly, I wanted to say, I think it's best for the police to use tranquilizer guns to avoid riots like in Atlanta and this summer 2020. Because if someone has seizures or if someone is whacked out on drugs or if they're just mentally ill, they're probably going to get legally executed. So I just want to bring that up because I want to keep our city safe. And, last time I called you illegitimate because 40% of Temecula technically didn't vote. The best thing I want you guys to do is please look into the smart cities and try to stop this agenda. And lastly, I want to say, Infowars.com, ban.video, and Trump 2024. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
The next speaker is Bob Cowell, to be followed by Jean Wunderlich and Patty Drew.
Welcome.
Yes, hello. Okay, thank you very much for having me here tonight, or speaking. I thank you for last time's meeting that you opposed a resolution to not include race and gender as part of the monthly meetings, or proclamations for monthly meetings. As a young guy, I read Soul on Ice. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that book. It's by Eldridge Cleaver, 1968. I read it when I was 15 years old. Now, he could be considered the father of CRT. I read the book. I read a lot of books. I read Karl Marx's books. I read everything I could read. It was possible to read, and I made up my mind on what I was in life, and I didn't really make a decision on which direction until I was probably 27. So I became a conservative Republican at that point. It was interesting that Eldridge Cleaver made several comments. One was, if a man like Malcolm X could change and repudiate racism, if I myself and other former Muslims can change, if young whites can change, then there is hope for America. The central premise surrounding the book as a whole is the trouble of identification as a black soul which had been colonized, okay, this is where CRT comes in, by an oppressive white society that projects its beliefs, narrow vision of life as eternal truth. He went to Cuba to escape. He had done some things like trying to kill cops and things like that. So he left the United States and went to Cuba, and he came back and became a Christian and a Republican, conservative Republican. So just going down to Cuba and seeing what life was like there, he understood after that that America's special. I beg all the students that think that I want to ban all books, or we want to ban all books, or ban books that are against white people. That's just wrong. I encourage you to read those books, but read our books too. Listen to Prager University. Listen to things that teachers aren't telling you to listen to, because they're not necessarily all right. So thank you very much for your time. Oh, and term limits, and thank you, Brendan, for bringing that forward.
Next speaker.
The next speaker is Jean Wunderlich and Patty Drew. I believe they're both coming up. Welcome, Mr. Wunderlich.
Welcome. Nice to see you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mayor and members of the council, Mr. Adams and Ms. Olson, members of city staff, and our friends here tonight. My name is Gene Wunderlich. I'm here this evening speaking on behalf of the Temecula Valley Players, celebrating our 40th year bringing community theater to the Temecula Valley. And we'd like to thank you specifically tonight for the Community Service Funding Reinvestment in Temecula Grant Award, which you recently bestowed on us. You're no doubt aware your lovely theater, and indeed the entire theater community, was shut down due to COVID, putting the Temecula Valley Players completely out of business from March of 2020 through August of 2021. With no income, we lost our warehouse, we got rid of costumes and sets, props. For the first time in our 40-year history, we were nearly put out of business. As you also probably know, our board of directors are all volunteers. We have no paid positions. Everyone who's part of the board, the creative team, and so forth, we do this for the love of the theater. But we're back now. We're celebrating our 40th season with some great shows. So thank you again for helping to support our mission of entertaining and enriching our community, especially our youth, through live theater. We invite you all to attend our shows and see the benefits that you have bestowed on us. Your generosity of $30,000 will support our project, Temecula Talent Revived. And now I'd like to introduce our president, whom most of you probably already know, Ms. Patty Drew.
Well, thank you so very much, Mr. Wunderlich. Good evening, everyone. Unfortunately, I do have to wear my glasses. Okay, so I wanted to let you know what the grant is going to benefit the city of Temecula with us. We will be able to recruit more additional Temecula residents to the Old Town Temecula community stage in the form of actors, directors, musical directors, choreographers, stage managers, set designers, and others who help us run our productions on stage. It will defray the costs for Temecula actors who are cast in shows so that expenses will not preclude them from any socioeconomic background. So anybody can come and play. It will also offer a 15% discount to all Temecula residents for tickets for Saturday and Sundays. Our weekday shows are already discounted enough, but on Saturday and Sunday, there is a 15% discount for Temecula residents. Additionally, Temecula Valley Players will use Temecula-based businesses whenever possible for costumes and sets, equipment rentals, and feeding our cast with cast parties, and sometimes when we have double shows, we feed our cast at the theater. We hope to increase the number of Temecula residents who perform in and attend shows in the Temecula Valley at their own theater. We cannot emphasize enough how important it is to our youth who are part of these shows. TVP has been in the Valley now for 40 years, and we have numerous youth who have performed with us over the years, who have gone on to perform in New York, Los Angeles, Disneyland, Disney World, and on cruise lines. We are happy that so many local youth and adults find home with TVP.
I really hate to interrupt you, but your time is up, and then just trying to be fair to
That was
everyone.
perfect. That was my last period.
Sorry.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you all.
Next speaker.
The next speaker is Sharon Morris, to be followed by Renee T.
Hey, welcome.
Thank you. Temecula City Council members and Mayor Schwank, congratulations. As you can tell, I am not from these parts originally. In 21 years ago, 2002, I left the United Kingdom and came to the United States with my job. And in 2010, I became an American citizen. When you become an American citizen, they play a video of the president, and he told me, I felt, just to me, that now that I was an American citizen, I should give back to community. And I found Voices for Children. Voices for Children is the local court-appointed special advocate, or CASA, program here in Riverside County. And I became a CASA. And I served a 5- and a 7-year-old sibling set, a 5-year-old girl and a 7-year-old boy. Today, they are now 18 and 20. She is in college and phones me every day to tell me she needs $15 for her Mexican evening meal. But Voices for Children serves children in foster care here in Riverside County. We appoint court-appointed special advocates, or CASAs, who are very special community members who we train, recruit, and support to become an advocate for a child in foster care. Here in Riverside County, there are, on any given day, 4,000 children who find themselves in care. They've been removed from their homes because of abuse, abandonment, or neglect. But we provide them with a voice, and so that they get that person, that consistent adult who goes to see them once a month and writes a report for one of the 5 juvenile court judges here in Riverside County to tell them what they need to live rather than just exist in foster care. One of our judges says that it is the social worker's report that paints a black and white outline of the child, but it is the CASA who colors it in. And I think that is really, really true. I know from my own experience. And I'm here really just to thank every single one of you for the CDBG funds that you give us in order to help children who've been removed from their homes in Temecula. Our volunteers, and last year we served 486 children with direct service from an advocate. Our volunteers make a difference in these children's lives. So thank you to every single one of you. We really appreciate it and couldn't do it without you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
And our final in-person speaker is Renee T. Renee?
Welcome.
Go time?
Go time.
All right. I'm here to express my gratitude for the vote that took place last week. I believe that these new topics that need to identify people based on anything other than ideologies should be a separate talking point outside of the city's agendas. We have a whole lot of needs in this city, especially after the terrible years that we all endured together through COVID. This time needs to be well spent on the real needs of the people that we've heard today. Also, I think that we should move forward with term limits. As we've seen in the community, we decided we don't want individuals who've sat on the council for far too long and got a little bit too comfortable. We decided that with our votes, and I think that's something that we should move forward. Also, I do have to address the issue of TikTok. A lot of city government agencies are banning this for a reason. It is considered a detriment for our country. Zach, I've seen you on TikTok commenting on a 21-year-old's TikTok about how all your fellow council members are racist, and I don't think that's appropriate. That's it.
Mr. Mayor, that concludes the last of the in-person comments. We do have time left in our 30 minutes for me to read all 3 of the emails that we've received for non-agendized items. So the first email is from Eden Enamorado. My name is Eden, and I'd like to address the recent bigotry spewed by 3/5 of the City Council. Not only has Temecula voted against teaching critical race theory, but now you'd like to rebel against federal law by slapping the face of the diverse communities in Temecula. My friend is Mexican and fought in Afghanistan, stepped on an IUD bomb and lost a leg and an eye, just for the City Council to say he should not be celebrated. Stop listening to Proud Boys, Jessica, James, and Brendan. Trump lost, so stop throwing tantrums as if it was 2021. What you should be doing is calling him out. The Trump administration was the most corrupt. Why? Well, in less than 4 years, they had 89 criminal indictments, 11 criminal convictions over fraud and corruption. Trump's main advisor, George Nader, was convicted of child rape in 2019. Trump was also sentenced in 2019 to pay back $2 million he stole from war veterans. Let's not forget how he was also impeached twice before you say he wasn't. All other presidents who were impeached were also not removed from office, but it still counts as impeachments. Guess how many criminal convictions or indictments Biden has had in over 9 years in presidential administrations? 0. You've all let Fox News brainwash you all and made you forget who's corrupt. Trump also has the highest unemployment rate in history when he was president, and we were under major lockdowns. The next public comment is from Greg Langworthy. I was able to watch the recording of your January 10th meeting and would like to thank the council for the example that you set for our city. Controversial issues were discussed, but the manner in which they were discussed is to be commended. In particular, I would like to thank Mayor Schwank and City Clerk Randy Joel for the orderly manner in which the meeting was conducted. Controversial topics generate strong feelings on the part of those advocating their positions, and the challenge is for the council in general and the mayor in particular to focus the debate on the arguments being made by the speakers rather than on the people making the arguments. Clerk Randy Joel had a number of emails to read on both sides of the issue discussed, and her respectful tone of voice gave no indication of her personal feelings about the content of the emails. She did her job professionally like an impartial umpire in a baseball game. The foundational principle of our constitutional republic is the belief that each person has been created equal and therefore is deserving of respect and of the right to be heard. Allowing different opinions to be heard at a city council meeting can become contentious, but the end result is a fuller understanding and appreciation of the topic being discussed. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. Proverbs 27:17. The council demonstrated to the community that it is possible to attack arguments without attacking the person making the arguments. This is how we learn from each other. And the last email comment is from Jillian Larson. I cannot be here in person as I have a commitment in LA I cannot change, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I and countless residents were horrified by the last council meeting. The way all of our various cultural groups were insulted and basically tossed into the category of inclusionary for our city proclamations was disgusting. Basically, your inclusionary means you, the city council, other than our mayor and councilmember Brown, do not recognize you as residents of Temecula deserving recognition and 5 minutes of your time at a council meeting. You should be ashamed of yourselves. All of our cultural groups deserve that 5-minute proclamation that our city council spends recognizing them, but I am especially horrified that the 3 council members responsible clearly disregarded the incredible impact financially and in so many other ways that Pechanga and the Luiseño tribe contributes to our city and residents. What a disgusting insult, and I, for one, apologize. If proclamations needed revisions, why did you not sort out and toss other groups at the Planning Commission, Community Services Commission, Public Safety Commission, etc., where they would be appropriate? Clearly, your decision was just laced with bigotry and fear. I only wonder if the REDI Commission had been included in a discussion about this change. A collaborative discussion could have made this move a very positive one instead of such a contentious one buckling to a bigot. Perhaps you know that the REDI Commission has turned this insult into an opportunity and has welcomed this inclusionary list with open arms. They intend to make each proclamation far more meaningful than the council members who authored this change ever could. Thank you, Mayor Schwank and Councilmember Brown, for being honorable council members. Is this bigotry going to continue to hit the national and even international news and cause havoc and division in the city we all thought that we loved and were proud to call home? Thank you for this opportunity to speak and share my opinion. Mr. Mayor, that is the last of the in-person and emailed comments for non-agendized items.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam City Clerk. We'll move on to our City Council reports. Councilmember Brown, have a report this evening?
So I just wanted to amplify that next month, February 1st through the 28th, is Black History Month. At the last meeting, I made the comment regarding the proclamations that were moved to the REDI commissions. I felt were educational recognition. And preparing for this slide, I actually learned a few things. And so a couple things that I learned regarding Black History Month was that it was created in 1926 by Carter G. Woodson, who was a writer and a historian. And at the time, it was only celebrated during the second week of February. And I also learned that why was February chosen for Black History Month? And it was because Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln, Frederick Douglass being an abolitionist, and Abraham Lincoln, the work he done with slavery was why February was chosen. And then I also learned that every U.S. president since 1976 has celebrated or proclaimed the month of February being Black History Month. Next slide, please. And so as Commissioner Steed spoke about earlier, February 9th at 6 p.m. in the council chambers, Chambers, the Black Student Union Club members from Chaparral, Great Oak, Rancho Vista, and Temecula Valley High School will be there. So there, they'll do the proclamation, videos, and presentations, and much more. So we invite you there February 9th right here at 6 p.m. in Council Chambers. Next slide, please. So in between the last council meeting and this meeting, I got an opportunity to spend 2.5 days in Sacramento with the city manager at the new Mayors and Council Members Academy that was attended by 440 new mayors and council members, including other city staff, such as city managers. And I have to admit, I told Randy at first I didn't want to go, and then I got talked into it. But over the 2.5 days that I was there, I was glad that I went. And so there provided an opportunity for new council members to fulfill their ethics and EEO state mandated training. I'd already completed that training, but I went anyways. And then we also learned legal authorities and restrictions under which cities and city officials operate. And then they had a 1-hour-long skit about do's and don'ts of conducting a public meeting, which I also learned from. Very beneficial, very funny, but at the end of that, they did back that up with every point during that dysfunction junction was a city. They taught us what to do and what not to do at council meetings to have a more productive meeting. And then the last day, the half day, was full of financial responsibilities and city revenue workshops. Taught us about city budgets and how to manage those. Next slide, please. Also wanted to highlight Luke, our deputy city manager. Mayor, I think you reached out to Luke and asked him, what does Temecula look like as far as rental developments? And I just wanted to highlight this slide that there's 3,493 units either in grading, approved, or under construction in the cities. And so at your leisure, you can go back and take a look at the different units under development here within the city. 393 rental units coming to the city in the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Brown. Mayor Pro Tem Stewart?
Yeah, well, first off, I want to say I'm super excited about the REDI Commission because I've always referred to the REDI Commission as the Commission of Heart. That's our Temecula Heart Commission. And so I'm really excited for these proclamations, these inclusionary, and I even want to see the Dyslexia Month go to REDI Commission because it also is an inclusionary. So I am super excited. I think they're going to do an amazing job, and I think everybody who has a problem with us moving them to there, if you show up to the meeting, and it could potentially be one of the biggest meetings that we have at the city council level or city level, I think you're going to be surprised that it's definitely the best place that we could put these proclamations. So. And then I would like to take my agenda item off of the calendar till February 28th, I believe, which is the last meeting in February. So my...
Mayor Pro Tem Stewart, I want to make sure I'm clear in understanding your items for future city council agendas. You had one item on there, number 1.
Yes.
You would like to go ahead and continue that item for 1 month until the February 28th meeting?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem Stewart. I'll have a couple of quick slides. Much of what we do in the city for some of the months that we recognize, we do throughout the community, and this is just one example. So this is our Emerging Artist Mural program. It started as a student mural program, and it's morphed into this Emerging Artist Mural because we wanted to certainly try to include more people that could participate in it. This is over at Sam Hicks Park next to the History Museum there. And a couple weeks ago, we unveiled this mural, and it's by artist Maya Hill, wonderfully talented young woman that was able to produce this. in honoring Frederick Douglass. Several of my council colleagues attended as well, and it really is a great opportunity for the community to sort of reflect on some of these proclamations in the months, and this is available for your viewing now. So I would certainly encourage everyone to head on over to Sam Hicks and take a look at that. Next slide, please. I saw this on social media a couple days ago. So we have a survey that's live for the hockey rink. Inline hockey is a fairly large sport here in our city, and we're looking for some feedback. We're looking to renovate the hockey rink, and we want to provide users with an opportunity to provide feedback. So if you go to temeculaca.gov/rink survey, you will be able to take a very quick survey. I think it was 4 or 5 questions, 6 questions, and you can kind of rank some of the things that you want to see there. Just one way we want to make it easier for voices to be heard in the city. So I'd certainly encourage everyone to do that. Go check out social media, and you can find the link there. All right, and I think that's it, so thank you very much. We'll go ahead and move on to our consent calendar. All matters listed under consent calendar are considered to be routine and all will be enacted by one roll call vote. I'll go ahead and read the consent calendar. Item number 1 is waive reading of standard ordinances and resolutions. 2, approve action minutes of January 10th, 2023. 3, approve list of demands. 4, adopt resolution making certain additional findings supporting amendments to the 2022 California Fire Code. Item 5, adopt resolution making certain additional findings supporting amendments to the 2022 California Building Codes. 6, approve the 4th Amendment to agreement with David Evans and Associates, Inc. for the Diaz Road Expansion Project, PW 17-25. Item number 7 is approve increase to construction contingency authorization for citywide concrete repairs, fiscal year 2021-22, PW 22-01. 8 is approve increase to construction contingency authorization for the pavement rehabilitation program. This is citywide, Inez Road, Solana Way, Nicholas Road, and Winchester Road project, PW 21-10. Item 9 is approve increase to contingency for extra work for additional landscape maintenance services with Nieves Landscape, Inc. Item number 10 is approve water quality management plan alternative compliance agreement and authorize the city manager to execute on behalf of the city. I'm going to ask that we pull that for just a very brief staff report. I think it's an interesting topic that I think the community should hear about. Item 11 is accept easements dedicated to public in connection with Long Valley Wash Channel and authorize quitclaim of easements to Riverside County Flood Control and Water Conservation District. And item number 12 is accept improvements and file a notice of completion for the Butterfield Stage Road Extension Phase 3, PW 15-11.
Move approval.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Before we vote, let's go ahead and get a staff report, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Schwenk. And I'm happy to present this report to you about an innovative new program here that we're implementing at the city known as the Water Quality Management Plan Alternative Compliance Program. So this program, and according to state and federal regulations known as the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System, or NPDES, you may have heard of that term, all priority development projects are required to implement both retention and treatment of the runoff from those projects. And what we've developed is a program that will allow development projects to actually pay what's known as an alternative compliance in lieu fee to compensate for the treatment improvements that they would have otherwise had to implement on their sites. So the city is actually constructing treatment improvements in other locations that will produce credits, and then these development projects can pay this in lieu fee and utilize those credits to provide the treatment that they would have otherwise had to construct on their sites. And it's really going to be an effective program for development projects, especially projects that are very constrained, have very tight sites, and have a difficult time trying to implement those types of treatment improvements. And they'll be able to now just pay into this program that will provide the credits that they need to meet their requirements, as well as provide funding for the city to then implement other treatment programs throughout the city. And for example, a couple of projects that we've already done that have generated those credits is we've implemented filters in our catch basins in various locations throughout the city that will treat the runoff that's coming from the streets. So those result in credits that then can be used by development projects. We have done turf removal and replacement projects that have resulted in treatment of the runoff, and that results in credits. And we also implemented a project on Jedediah Smith and DePortola Road where we implemented some mulching and treatment of the runoff that was coming down that road that resulted in those credits. So with this program, these development projects will now be able to just pay this in lieu fee that will meet their requirement for the treatment, that will then allow us to do other projects and really be a really good program to be able to continue with the water quality requirements that are applicable to all these projects. So what you have before you is an action to approve of the agreement that we would enter into with the developer that would establish the relationship between the developer and the city as far as use of these credits, and then authorizing the city manager to sign that agreement on behalf of the city. So that concludes the report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Director Thomas. Any questions? Great, appreciate it, thank you. All right, let us vote.
I do see that the names are not correct again, so I'll just do a quick voice vote. Councilmember Alexander?
Yes.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Mayor Schwank?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Kalfas?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That passes 5-0. We'll now recess the city council meeting to the Temecula Community Services District meeting.
So I will begin the Temecula Community Service District meeting. Madam Secretary, please note we're all still here. Are there any public comments? Okay, so we're on to the consent calendar, which is item number 13, approve action minutes of January 10th, 2023.
Move approval?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Please vote.
And I'll go ahead and take a voice vote. Councilmember Alexander?
Yes.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Mayor Schwank?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Kalfas?
Yes.
All right, that passes 5-0. Now we're on to a public hearing. And I'll give it to, who do I give it to? Pat.
Yes.
Okay. Take her away, Pat.
Thank you, President Stewart. So the public hearing that you will be holding shortly is to ratify the election results for the for annexation of the Somers Bend Development Project into what we call the Service Level B rates and charges. And before that, I'll just give you a brief history and background on the service levels and how that originated and where we are with the Somers Bend project. So the Temecula Community Services District, or TCSD, operates under the authority of the Community Services District Law of the state and provides for special assessments for various services. And in this case, it's the residential street lighting service that is charged to most residential developers throughout the city, and we refer to that as Service Level B. We also have a Service Level C that provides for landscape maintenance services for various subdivisions in the city, and we have Service Level D, which provides for our trash and recycling services that are charged of all residents, and we have a few other service level assessments as well. So the history behind the Service Level B assessment for the Somers Bend Development Project, as you can see, in November of 2022, that's when the Somers Bend, at that time called Roarpaw Ranch project, was approved. And at that time, it was actually approved to have private streets. So we only assess the residential developments that have public streets and public street lighting for our Service Level B assessment. So in January of 2023, or excuse me, January 23rd of 2018, an amendment to the specific plan for the Roarpaw Ranch development was approved that revised some of the residential street alignments. And then on July 25th of 2019, the specific plan was amended to essentially create public streets for the majority of streets within the development. On November 29th, just this past November, the board of the TCSD adopted Resolution 2022-06, calling for an election to be held to establish the Service Level B assessment for the residential lots in Somers Bend beginning in fiscal year 2023-24. So again, beginning in 2023-24, if this passes the vote, and we'll talk about that in just a minute, that Service Level B will be assessed for all the residential, the majority of the residential lots in the Somers Bend development, and those lots are the lots in tract maps number 37341-1 through 37341-10. So our Service Level B assessment is $25.68 per lot per year. So that's the amount that each lot would be assessed for the residential street lighting. And if this does pass, that will generate a total amount of $13,995.60 from that development that will go towards the cost of the residential street lighting for that development. So for this annexation, it does require a ballot, and it was a mail ballot. It was conducted by mail. The ballots were sent out in November, and the final acceptance of those ballots was to be this evening at 6 p.m. For our public hearing. So what you will be doing is, based on the results of the ballots, you will be then ratifying those election results, and if it does pass, then the assessment will begin for those properties in the 2023-24 fiscal year. So we sent out a total of 545 ballots. That was the total of the number of owners of property within the Somers Bend development. A large number of those lots are actually still owned by the developer, so they will be able to cast a ballot for the lots that they still own. So at the close of the public hearing, we will be counting the ballots that were returned, and in order for this to pass, it requires 50% of the ballots returned to be either in favor or opposed. So if 50% of the ballots that are returned are in favor, then it will pass. After you hold your public hearing this evening, we've got our consultants over in the conference center that will count all the ballots that have been returned, and then we'll need to come back later in the meeting here to announce the results. And at that time, you can then vote to ratify the results of the election. So at this time, that concludes the staff report, and we can go ahead with the public hearing.
All right, does any of the city council have any questions for Pat? All right, so I will open the public hearing. And do we have any public comments on this?
Mr. President, we do not have any public comments, so you are welcome to go ahead and close the public hearing. We will go ahead and conduct the canvass of the election. You can go ahead and move on with the rest of the meeting, both you and Mayor Schwenk. And then whenever the results are provided to us, we will go ahead and make a public announcement of such results.
All right, so I will close the public hearing.
And Mr. President, you can go ahead and move on to the director's report.
Okay, perfect. Director report.
Yes, indeed. We have a couple slides. There we go. So first of all, we'd just like to invite the community to see Alice in Wonderland, which is playing at the theater from February 3rd through the 5th. This is going to be the 5th session of our student-led arts education internship program, which is a unique program because it's just like it says student-led, meaning students hold the director position, they hold basically all of the positions, and they work with other students to present a stage production. So it's been a very successful arts education program, and this interpretation of Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll is a brand new musical version of the timeless classic. Next slide, please. And then we wanted to highlight some of the items we're going to have coming up for Black History Month in February. After Councilmember Brown mentioned that he was going to provide us with some information, we just thought we'd highlight these now. We'll be bringing this information back, of course, in social media and again at the February council meeting, but we just wanted to kind of get it on everybody's radar. As many of you might be aware, every year at the theater we highlight a different production in honor of American Black History Month, and this year we are highlighting the contribution of African American musicians in the classical music. We're featuring the String Queens, And they're a dynamic trio creating stimulating musical experiences that inspire diverse audiences to love, hope, feel, and imagine. In addition, we're going to have a series of exhibits over at Temecula Museum. In addition to the mural, which you saw highlighted earlier, we're also having educational materials pertaining to Black History Month and Frederick Douglass, as well as portraits of historic Black inventors, which were created by students at Tony Tobin Elementary School, and a special exhibit of voting rights posters from the 1960s. So we'll be highlighting all of this more in the weeks to come, but we just wanted to get this on everybody's radar. Thank you.
Thank you very much. General Manager report.
Nothing further tonight, Mr. President.
All right. Any Board of Directors reports? Not seeing any. I will adjourn until the next, what?
Just recess.
You can just go ahead and recess.
Okay,
Yeah,
so-
and we'll keep that item open so that
Got
we
it.
can go ahead and announce the results.
Got it. I'll recess.
Thank you very much, President Stewart. We'll go ahead and reconvene the Temecula City Council meeting. We'll move to our first item of public hearing. Item number 15 is conduct public hearing to consider extension of interim urgency ordinance enacted pursuant to Government Code Section 65858, establishing emergency regulations related to urban lot splits and housing units built in accordance with Senate Bill 9, declaring the urgency thereof and making determination of exemption pursuant to Government Code Section 65852.21J and California Environmental Quality Act Guidelines Section 15061B3. May we have a staff report, please? Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I'm Matt Peters with the Planning Department. And this agenda item is the extension of the SB 9 urgency ordinance. I've broken the presentation down into two main sections. The first answering the question, what is SB 9? And then the second portion will be discussing the city's authority for the interim urgency ordinance. I want to begin by stating that the urgency ordinance is not a moratorium. Applicants can still apply for an SB 9 urban lot split, but need to follow the interim urgency ordinance standards that are in place until we have a final ordinance that's adopted. So SB 9 is referred to as the HOME Act, the Housing Opportunity and More Efficiency Act. It allows urban lot splits and two-unit projects by right in single-family residential zones. So local agencies, cities, must ministerially approve both lot splits and up to 4 units in single-family zones. And ministerially means that the city has no discretion to deny a project if it meets all SB 9 requirements. There can be no hearings, no public input, and no CEQA. And the new lot resulting from the urban lot split can be sold separately. So just to illustrate SB 9 for the city and for the residents, here's an air photo of a single-family home. The lot line is the black line. The landowner would be able to do an urban lot split, so they can split the lot in half, and then they can build an accessory dwelling unit in addition to the primary dwelling unit that already exists on the first lot, and then the second lot that's created, they can build a duplex for a total of 4 units. And that's SB 9 in a nutshell. The max number of units is capped at 4. So as I described, you can have the primary structure and an ADU on one lot, and then you can have a duplex on the other, or any combination thereof. You can have a primary dwelling unit, an accessory dwelling unit, a junior accessory dwelling unit, which is attached to the primary structure, or a duplex. In terms of location, the parcel lot or development must be located in a single-family residential zone, but it cannot be located in a special flood hazard area, high fire severity zone, earthquake fault zone, a historic property, or a historic district. So it sounds like a lot of restrictions, but just to illustrate, here's an outline of the city of Temecula. The gray areas represent something other than single-family zoning, so commercial, the business park, the mall, Santa Margarita Ecological Reserve. Everything in yellow represents single-family zoning. And a lot of that is mostly developed and would be eligible for an SB 9 urban lot split. So under SB 9's, local agencies may only impose objective design standards. So the next couple slides, I'm just further explaining what's identified in the law. So local agencies may only impose objective design standards. We did adopt those, so the Planning Commission recommended approval to the City Council back in December of 21, and the City Council adopted those for multifamily developments, including duplexes. City may require only one off-street parking space per unit, none if the development is within a half mile of a high-quality transit stop or a car share vehicle location within 1 block of the project. Setbacks are limited to 4 feet on side and rear yards, and there are no setbacks at all on an existing structure, one constructed in the same location. No right-of-way dedications or construction of off-site improvements may be required. No corrections of non-conforming uses or structures are allowed. And the owner must sign an affidavit that they will occupy one of the units as their principal residence for 3 years. And then finally, no short-term rentals for less than 30 days. Also, some considerations for the HOAs, homeowners associations, which we have several throughout the city. SB 9 contains no language limiting the scope of CC&Rs, covenants, conditions, and restrictions. So homeowners associations may enforce CC&Rs to prohibit or regulate duplexes and urban lot splits. This creates a potentially confusing scenario for landowners. So state law permits SB 9 urban lot splits. The city must allow them as required by state law, but then an HOA has the potential to deny. So with all of that, to answer the question, why the urgency ordinance? First reason is to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the quality of life of Temecula's residents. Staff needs more time to study and analyze the impacts to the city and its neighborhoods, specifically impacts to sewer, water, electricity, trash, traffic, schools, police and fire staffing. And we are monitoring a number of neighboring cities' ordinances, and we need time to develop the final regulations. In addition, the City of Temecula is a member of WRCOG, or the Western Riverside Council of Governments. WRCOG did hire a consultant to put together a toolkit for local cities. So that toolkit includes a fact sheet, scenarios, and then a model ordinance. And as I circled here on the screen in red, we received that draft in December. We're going through it, we're digesting it, and seeing how it fits with our urgency ordinance. So with that, the state law allows a city to adopt an interim ordinance that imposes temporary restrictions on the approval of land use entitlements that may be in conflict with the general plan or zoning and need to be studied. It's definitely the case with SB 9. California Government Code Section 65858, and this is specific to the timing. So the interim urgency ordinance, which has already been adopted, goes into effect for 45 days, but then we're allowed 2 extensions. The first extension is for 10 months, 15 days, which gets you the first year. Second extension is for 12 months. So essentially you get 2 years on an interim urgency ordinance. And that ordinance must be adopted by a 4/5 majority vote. Some important dates. On February 22nd, 2022, the City Council adopted the SB 9 urgency ordinance. That was ordinance number 2022-03. That was set to expire after 45 days on April 8th, 2022. Staff came back on March 22nd, 2022, and the City Council extended the ordinance 10 months and 15 days. And that ordinance is set to expire February 21st, 2023. That's why we're back. We're proposing to extend for another period up to 12 months to February 21st, 2024. So staff's recommendation, the project is exempt. The urgency ordinance is exempt from CEQA, Section 15061B3. Just a reminder that the extension must be adopted by a 4/5 majority vote. And staff recommends the City Council adopt an extension to the interim urgency ordinance for SB 9 urban lot splits, ordinance number 2022-03, to and through February 21st, 2024. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you for the presentation, Matt. Any questions of staff? Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Stewart.
Okay, Matt, the setbacks, you were saying it's 4 feet, is that sides and back?
Sides and rear yard.
Okay, and so, and it could be a 0 against another building that exists today, correct?
Yeah, if there was an existing home,
Right?
the setbacks could follow essentially the footprint of the house.
Right, okay. Is that very comparable to our existing ADU law? So say it's not going to be a setback, I mean a lot split. Are those setbacks the same as it would be for, would an ADU be the same for a lot split?
They're different under SB 9.
Okay.
And an ADU has a setback. I'd have to take a look at exactly what it is.
Okay.
It is probably pretty close to the 4 feet for side and rear
Okay.
lot lines.
Right.
But SB 9 is specific to being able to follow the footprint of the structure.
Okay.
So that's different from our existing ADU law.
Okay, got it, thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Alexander? Okay. We'll maybe hold the comments then. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing and see if we have any public comments.
We do, Mr. Mayor. We have 3 public comments, 2 in person and 1 in via email. The first speaker is Laura Lamont, to be followed by Bob Cal, and this is a public hearing, so the speakers do receive 5 minutes each.
Okay, welcome.
Hi, housing. All right, it's often referred to as complicated. Complicated is a term utilized to justify inaction or avoid responsibility. Every city, county in California is culpable for the very real housing crisis that we are in today. It's real. It may not affect you directly or your city staff directly, but it affects many of us who don't feel represented by our representatives. The workforce exists here. The lesser earning economic workforce is not simply transitional jobs, as we're referred to so often. We are single parents, we are families, and we are more than just your service industry. We deserve to live within the community we serve. We need to stop lessening the value of our workforce and stop treating the workforce as though we are not worthy of the communities we serve. This is a drop in the bucket, but it's a necessary drop in the bucket. SB 9 needed to pass yesterday. It needs to be done. We didn't plan appropriately, and now this is happening. We need it. Housing is needed. We exist, but we don't have the ability to live here. I'm confident I know more about housing than most of any representative up and down the state, because it's what I do. Outside of my work and my momming, I'm treated like I'm naive, and so I buy books, copious amounts of housing podcasts. I do my homework on all the literature. And you need to hold your staff accountable to the constituents and our needs. You brought the businesses here, and now we're employed here, and we need to live within the communities. Our children don't have the luxury or the privilege to play in all your parks and your cute, beautiful, pre-planned communities because we can't afford to live in them. We're not asking for the same size home. We're not asking for the same kind of home in which your $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 homes can afford. If you can afford them, great. Build us smaller homes. That is what this does. Beyond that, I plead with you, put land trusts on the agenda. Let's talk about attainable homeownership. Let's go beyond this measure. Let's see what we can do locally. We haven't done anything locally as far as attainable homeownership goes for the local economic workforce. We don't talk about it. We don't educate the conservative constituency within this community and how this benefits them and reduces traffic and includes your grocers, your childcare providers, your barbers, your preschool teachers. It's inclusive. You value the accessibility to the business, value the employed. We're full-time, and we're drowning, and we're not here because we can't be here. I'm representing them. Please represent them with me. We need housing. I'm not making this up. I'm begging you, please. Our children are in the hospital because they're down. Parents and communities, we don't have the community you have. But we're serving you. We're working. Build the housing, pass SB 9.
Thank you. Next speaker?
Next speaker is Bob Cowell, and then I have one written comment.
Okay, thank you.
Please do not pass SB 9. Please do not. Can you imagine, Mayor Spank, you have maybe a view of the country club where you can look down to tennis courts and somebody builds something in the way of your view. All of your houses are in danger of having something put in their front yard just because somebody wants to live here and not have to travel a little bit to come here. I had to travel to work for an hour and a half to 2 hours every day to Huntington Beach from here because I couldn't afford to live there. I never thought of putting everybody out of their home and make them move because they don't have the property anymore to live in this area. So I actually think this is, when I just go down the communist lane, I was in Monterey Park in Alhambra, and that place is such a zoo because they pass stuff like this. Stand up against the state. Don't pass this law. I urge you, please do not pass this law. Thank you.
Next speaker?
So the next speaker, that was all the in-person speakers. I do have one written comment from Martha Howard. I am writing in opposition to an extension of the interim urgency ordinance and requesting to end the moratorium on construction of split lot housing. We need additional and affordable housing now. SB 9, California Housing Act, passed a year ago. There should not be additional excuses to extend a delay in approving a city ordinance in compliance with the state mandate. The agenda enumerated 5 documents attached for item number 15. Every single one is a redundant document and a stack of legislative repetitive excuses as to why approving an ordinance needs an additional year. Let me exemplify. The February 22nd, 2022 report submitted by the Planning Commission was completely a verbatim cut and paste of SB 9. The report fails to provide our community with specific information on the progress the Commission is achieving towards submitting a recommendation for the city's approval to allow us to build a second unit. Moving forward, on January 10th, 2023, and a year after SB 9 passed, the Planning Commission staff submitted another recommendation to extend the moratorium urgency ordinance for an additional year, citing the need of professional consultants. Once again, the city is allowing legislative delays and waste of financial resources. The Planning Commission personnel are well acquainted with our city and potential areas for rezoning. The agency can render all the information needed for the council to approve the ordinance. So why is the commission asking for further extension? Due to these facts, it only makes sense to take a close look at this department's performance and start vetting potential employees that can produce. We can't continue waiting based on excuses. Compel the planning director to submit a proposal within 90 days. Stop extending the interim urgency ordinance number 22-23. Mr. Mayor, those are all the comments we have.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam City Clerk. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing and open it up for council comments and or a motion. Councilmember Alexander, I believe you might have a comment.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So just a couple comments on this. First, I just want to thank you for your presentation. You've put this out to us many times as it's been going through over the last year, and it's very informative. And having sat through the meeting today, I was able to pick up on more things that are concerns for me coming from the state, not necessarily from our staff, because you guys are doing a great job. I know that there are people who need housing, but at the same time, I know that there are people who move into this city because we are not overpopulated, because I came from New York City. I came from an area that was massively overpopulated, and we moved here to raise our family because we wanted to have a little bit of space. So I want to also be able to, highlight those families that have uprooted and came here because this is what they were moving to, as far as something beautiful and just having space. The other thing that I'm looking at, a couple other things with it, is the highlights of looking at what about our waste. We already have plans throughout the city as far as how much in population how much waste can be pushed out, how much water. It's going to take a lot more for planning to be able to create, I don't know, like a new system. I would look at. I mean, we looked at Old Town here, and we would have to create a whole new sewer system just to add a couple more people on the to sit outside, and that was some of the things that we looked at. So for me, that's another concern. Parking, schools. Our schools are already just overpopulated, and so now we're just going to stick more kids into these areas. And again, staff is doing a great job. My concerns coming from the state. We've spent millions on traffic, for the I-15. Is it just going to reclog everything up that we've just put phase 1 going into phase 2, and now we're hoping to go into phase 3? And so all these concerns are just really just in my mind, and I just want to be able to highlight. One of the things that one of the staff members brought up also is for the 3-year affidavit. I'm going to just come right back to you. Can you explain that to me one more time as far as what that looks like for me?
Yeah, so a homeowner is required to sign an affidavit that they're going to live in the property for 3 years. They can do that. It gets recorded with the deed, but then it comes back to enforcement. It's a difficult thing to enforce. So if you have a property owner who decides to move, they can sign the affidavit and they can move and rent that place.
So it means really nothing. As for right now, as far as how we can see to even try to enforce it, it's
Correct.
a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the last thing is I just want to encourage, if there's any HOAs, people who are on HOA boards, if there's anybody who wants to even go to their HOA, I would very much encourage that you bring this up to the HOAs as what this looks like for SB 9. If you guys have questions, please come down to myself or city staff to get an understanding of what this is going to look like and how you can get ahead of this in your own HOAs possibly. So, and that's going to go back to the CCRs, which is the conditions, covenant, and restoration. So again, if you guys have questions for HOAs, we'd love to be able to work with you on those areas as well to be able to just take a deeper look at what that looks like for your community. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Stewart?
Yeah, I was just going to add to that is, this is a very well planned out community. And everything we've done in the city, we did it for a particular reason. And this is it AB9? SB9?
SB9.
SB9. SB9 is a complete polar shift on city planning. And so without us taking the time to actually figure out how we can implement this without major impacts, A, to our roads, B, to our infrastructure, it could be a time bomb just going to blow up in our face. So that's why we're pushing this out. We want more time. I'm on the WRCOG committee. So we're looking at this. We're trying to find ways to make this work. We're not trying to find ways to make it not work, but we got to find ways to make it work for our city and our citizens. So that's what I just want people to understand. We're not saying no. We're not standing up here, wanting to push back. We just want to make sure we do it right for the city of Temecula. So
that's a good point, doing it
Yeah.
right for the city of Temecula. Good points, Mayor Pro Tem. At this point, I'll certainly entertain a motion to move this item.
So moved.
I'll read the title.
Thank you.
This would be an interim urgency ordinance of the City Council of the City of Temecula, California, extending interim urgency ordinance number 2022-03, establishing emergency regulations pursuant to Government Code Section 65858 on urban lot splits and housing units built in accordance with Senate Bill 9, and making a determination of exemption pursuant to Government Code Section 65852.21J and California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA Guidelines, Section 15061B3.
Thank you very much. Looks like we've all
And
voted.
Councilmember Alexander, would you like to go ahead and vote? Is your vote screen up?
It is now.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, that is unanimous.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Matt, thank you for the presentation. Much
Thank you.
Also, Mr. Mayor, I do have the results of the TCSD item number 14, and that is currently on recess, so we will go ahead and announce those results so we can close out that meeting.
Perfect.
And for the record, Mr. Mayor and Mr. President, the ballot count was 357 votes to support, 18 to oppose, for a total of 375. And the assessment percentage in support was 95.2%, and the assessment percentage to oppose was 4.8%, and that accounts for 100% of the ballots cast. So with that, the item does pass, and we will go ahead. I can take a roll call vote to go ahead and adopt the resolution if you would like. Mr. President or Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please take the roll call vote.
Okay. Councilmember Alexander?
Yes.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Mayor Schwank?
Yes.
President Stewart?
Yes.
And Councilmember Kalfas?
Yes.
With that, Mayor Pro Tem Schwank, if you would like to close or adjourn the Temecula Community Services meeting, you are welcome to.
I'll do it.
It was a mashup. It was a Mayor Pro Tem Schwank mashup.
It's not as clean tonight.
We'll close the Community Service District meeting now.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, we're moving on to our business section of our agenda. Item 16 is introduce ordinance amending section 10.28.010D of the Temecula Municipal Code regarding prima facie speed limits on certain streets. And we have a staff report, please.
Mr. Mayor, can I first introduce, I'm not sure if he's made a presentation in front of this council before, but Nick Minichilli is our senior traffic engineer, and he'll be providing the staff report.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Pat. I actually have. I did it last year, if some of you remember me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. This presentation is in regard to the updating of the 2022 Engineering and Traffic Survey update. A little background on engineering and traffic surveys. The California Vehicle Code requires that local authorities review and reaffirm or adjust speed limits every 7 years on the basis of an engineering and traffic survey. The CVC also allows us to extend the engineering and traffic survey up to 14 years if a registered engineer determines that no significant changes in roadway or traffic conditions have occurred. These changes could include, roadway widths, major volume increases, property or land use changes. An engineering and traffic survey is essentially made up of 3 parts. The measurement of the prevailing speed to determine the 85th percentile speed. This is done through the use of a radar gun. The 85th percentile speed is a basis point for determining the speed limit. And what the 85th percentile speed is the speed at which 85% of motorists are traveling. So it's basically what most people are doing, and that's how we set that speed limit. We also review accidents to determine if there's a higher than average rate of collisions. If we got a high accident rate, maybe we choose to lower the speed limit a little bit more. And then other roadway characteristics we look at are roadway alignment, visibility, obstructions, and land uses, other things that I mentioned previously. So for this traffic survey update, staff reviewed 107 segments on 29 roadways in the city. Many of these segments were nearing their 7-year update limit, so a traffic survey was needed. After reviewing these roadway segments, we determined that most of the roadways' speed limits can be reaffirmed at the existing speed, since no significant changes were needed based on the previous approved engineering and traffic survey. We hired a consultant to actually study 33 segments on 9 roadways, or actually more than 9 roadways, to determine a potentially new speed limit, because changes did occur on some of these roadways. On these next slides, this is the summary of the recommended speed limits. There's a lot of them, but we wanted to mention that out of the 107, 74 of the segments were reaffirmed by us looking at the speed limits and determining that they were good and there was no changes on the roadways. So we're planning on extending these up to 14 years. Now on to the summary of recommended adjusted speed limits. These 9 roadway segments are speed limits that are recommended to be reduced by 5 miles per hour, and this is based on the 85th percentile speed that we did. You can see that many of them are on Pechanga Parkway. There's also Peppercorn Drive, Solana Way, and Winchester Road. All these speed limit recommendations were approved by the Safety and Traffic Commission at 2 separate meetings, one on July 28th, 2022, and the other was on October 27th, 2022. And with that, staff recommends that the City Council introduce an ordinance amending Section 10.28.10D of the Temecula Municipal Code regarding prima facie speed limits on certain streets. And with that, I can take any questions or comments.
Great. Any questions? Mayor Pro Tem Stewart.
So the reason why we do this is we're required by law. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we're not arbitrarily lowering speed limits to hand out tickets.
Correct.
Yes, and I have a feeling they're going to hand out a lot of tickets on Pechanga Parkway because it's hard to go 40 miles an hour, let alone 45 or 50. So I totally understand the public's perception of this, but we have to do this based on enforceability too of those speed limits, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So. Can you expand on that, or did
Sure.
I pretty
It
much
sounds like
cover
you're a little concerned with going down from 45 to 40 on
Yes.
Pechanga Parkway. We were pretty surprised with the data from what we received from the counts. Much of the data showed that the 85th percentile speed limits it varied across that corridor, but 41, 42, 43. We only hit it in one segment at 44. Everything was actually below 45 miles an hour, which surprised us. We went back to the 2016 survey to see what those 85th percentiles were, and they were all over 45 miles an hour. So there was a shift in speed, quite a significant one. Can't put our finger on why that occurred, but the data does show it. So we felt comfortable dropping it down to 40 based on that data.
I think too, I would really feel more comfortable in, city manager did bring it up in another meeting, that it would be nice to put some sort of a indicator light or something that says new speed limit 40 miles an hour, just to warn people, to get people used to the idea this is dropped, because I could very easily see how I could get a ticket. and so
we talked about
Right.
message boards, and Pat, I think that's something that we can absolutely do.
Yes.
That this, once this is approved, that this is sort of an advance warning to all folks as part of the education effort.
Yeah.
And I know our law enforcement friends are also well aware of this as well. So.
Yes, and we'll obviously need to change the signs and the legends on the streets and everything to indicate the new limit. So when we do that, we'll place the changeable message signs out to give warning of the new limits.
Okay.
Great. Any other questions?
Then if approved, how soon does it go into effect?
It takes us a while for our Public Works Department to gather the signs, get the material for the striping. So last time it took us several months to do it, I believe.
Just one. I'm not sure how they initially set the parameters for the miles per hour when the roads are initially built and they conduct, I'm sure, lots of surveys to say this road is going to be 45 miles per hour. My question would be, during these surveys where we review the accidents and the visibility of the roads, is there any time where the speed limit is recommended to be increased rather than decreased? And are there parameters on, we are decreasing it from 45 to 40? Is there a parameter we can't decrease it to 35 or we can't increase it to 55, et cetera?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are rules to how you can raise or lower that speed limit. For instance, if we get in an 85th percentile of 42 miles an hour, you can actually go down to 40 miles an hour, and then you can reduce it another 5 miles an hour to 35 with some justification. And then you can actually go from 42 to take it up to 45, but you can't take it up to 50. So there is leeway with what you can set those speed limits at. So we generally try to go to the nearest. That's kind of what we do without trying to lower it an additional 5.
And just to clarify, so say in the survey that the average miles per hour traveled on Pechanga Parkway was 48 miles an hour, would it have been possible to be recommended where the speed limit was increased to 50 miles per hour?
Absolutely, it would have suggested us to do that, 250, but we would look at other factors to maybe keep that at 45 miles an hour. You got Pechanga Casino, you got tourists driving, so we kind of take all these factors into account so we don't necessarily put something too high that could cause issues for us.
Thank you.
Great. Nick, on the speed limits that we sort of approved for 14 years, if something changes in that time, we're able to bring them back, and if we do a road diet or something along those lines, like
Absolutely, road diet or widening. For instance, Inez
Right.
is on this list, and
Yeah.
we may be widening, so we felt comfortable. Let's wait till we do that project, and then we'll do the whole Inez Road corridor. So we do take that into account.
Perfect. Your team does a great job, by the way, so thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to move this item.
I'll read the title. This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Temecula, amending Section 10.28.010D of the Temecula Municipal Code regarding prima facie speed limits on certain streets.
I'll move the item.
Second.
Okay, let us vote. Okay, and that passes 5-0. Thank you, everyone. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on to items for future city council agendas. As Mayor Pro Tem Stewart mentioned at the onset of this meeting, the first item will be tabled until February 28th. The second item is consider creation of ad hoc subcommittee to discuss Temecula Fire Department at the request of Councilmember Kalfas. I'll go ahead and turn the floor over to you.
Just a minute, Mr. Mayor, if I could. Councilmember Brown is a deputy director of CAL FIRE, and as a result, the city has a contract with the County of Riverside Fire Department, which in turn contracts with CAL FIRE. So based on that, we have discussed that, and he will not be participating in this item because of his position with CAL FIRE. Okay. And the other thing is that the Political Reform Act requires that he leave the room. So he'll leave the room, and we'll make sure that he's advised when we get on to the next item.
Okay, well, see if we're going to hear the item first.
Yeah, with that being said, I just want to say in light of the recent tragic events that have affected our community here with the Riverside County Sheriff officers, and I know it has affected all of our public safety personnel as well as the community, I as well wanted to postpone this agenda item for 1 month.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you very much. You get to stay? Okay, item number 3 is consider establishment of term limits for city council members at the request of Councilmember Kalfas. I'll go ahead and give you the floor. You have 3 minutes.
And this one is relatively easy for me. I don't think I'll take all 3 minutes. I know the prior council last year voted on term limits, and I just wanted to bring it up again with the new council members and give us a chance to have our 2 cents into it. With that being said, we all have our thoughts and beliefs on term limits, and I think it is a pretty easy decision. And I'm just asking for us to put it on the agenda for next city council meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. So this, we can certainly have a discussion, or we could just vote. This would just be a vote to place this item on a future agenda. So you can make a motion.
Yep, I will motion to place it on the future agenda.
I'll second it.
Okay, let us vote.
Mr. Mayor, that passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to that discussion. Okay, city manager report.
Nothing further tonight, Mr. Mayor.
City Attorney's
I have
report?
nothing further tonight, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Before we adjourn this evening, I just want to take a moment to come alongside communities in California that have been affected by recent gun violence. The city of Temecula stands beside the cities of Monterey Park, Half Moon Bay, and recently Oakland. These communities have felt the impact of senseless gun violence firsthand. Our hearts break with these communities. In our last meeting, we adjourned in honor of Deputy Isaiah Cordero, who was senselessly murdered on December 29th. We find ourselves once again adjourning this meeting in honor of Deputy Darnell Calhoun, who was murdered on January 13th. These men and all the women of the Riverside Sheriff's Department are part of the Temecula family. I wish peace to the entire Riverside Sheriff's Department and their families. Words fail at times, but I want you all to know, as we support the brave men and women who protect our families and improve the lives each and every day here in Riverside County, I hope that one day we live in a community where gun violence does not exist. We're going to adjourn this meeting tonight in honor of Deputy Darnell Calhoun after a brief moment of silence.